American consumers aren't the only ones struggling with mounting credit card debt and spending woes. Tax revenues dropping, states feeling the pinch as well. New Jersey's debt has increased fourfold in 15 years to $33 billion. Joining us this morning is New Jersey's governor and former Wall Street veteran John Corzine. He joins us here on set along with our guest host Jack Welch. Governor, great to have you back.
Great to be here.
Comes on a week where the president came out and tried to celebrate as much as he could some of the early results of stimulus. And I wonder if some of the rail initiatives you got going are part of that.
Well, I don't know about rail initiatives. There are a lot of things in the stimulus program that are very helpful to the state of New Jersey and to states across the country. Stabilization of our budgets with regard to education and health care are extraordinarily important as we go through a period where our revenues are off. The investments that are allotted for infrastructure, roads, bridges, and energy-related projects, I think are actually going to kick in and create a lot of jobs as we go through the spring season. Yesterday I was at Merck, and they put in a 10-acre solar energy field. Now, that's not coming from the stimulus program, but we're getting additional dollars where we can work with the private sector, give some support for seeing conversion of to alternative energies. We might even buy some of that stuff from GE someplace along the line. I think that what is going to happen is that you're going to see some of this money, including the tax cuts that are a part of it, start to help bring back some of the confidence. And I think the president's trying to use his communication skills to support what I think we talked about here, is you had to put some money into the system. It's probably nothing any of us would want to do except that we had this very severe recession, and I think it's making a difference.
Is it clear to you that this may be all that we need?
I wouldn't say that any of us are smart enough to predict whether this is enough. It's not just the stimulus program. It's also what's going on in the banks. It's whether the kind of reformatting of mortgages that's in the paper today, where there's $10 billion of mortgage modification money, that can make a difference. All of these things cumulatively, I think, I would say, have put us close to a bottom in the economy. I don't know about the markets, but I do believe that we may have seen not turn in growth, but I think actually stop going down.
Well, Governor, when we've talked to you in the past, you've told us about how revenue was kind of falling off of a cliff. Where are state revenue?
It's still not exactly shooting up. Joe's hoarding all of his purchases in the Short Hills Mall and all those things.
Great mall.
Yeah, it is a great mall.
You know that. You have not done anything with that extra easy pass lane that I ask you about every time. Do you have other
I'm
things?
trying. You know, we're working on the turnpike so that you can get back and forth easily to work. But I don't think the consumer has turned around, and so you're not seeing changes in retail sales, which I think you saw in the macro numbers. I don't see that happening, but it does feel both in our numbers that whatever pace of decline is slowed, and I'm hopeful that we're bouncing along or close to a bottom.
Okay, but the pace of decline has slowed, but it hasn't necessarily bottomed out.
Bottomed out.
We're not sure.
Well, these kinds of things, we're seeing further declines in Atlantic City, but we've seen auto sales seem a little firmer. Believe it or not, we look at used car sales, and they're actually up a little bit. Yeah. So there are, what is it, green shoots and all that stuff are growing out there and in some ways. And so I'm more optimistic that if we look 6 months, 9 months out, that you will start to see comeback. Now, by the way, we've had, I don't know, 5 or 6% decline in GDP. It's a big hole. It's got to get filled.
Now, what do you think about the stimulus in terms of, when we talked before, we talked about $750 million, et cetera. And
yeah, I was shocked. A guy like Jack Welch saying, let's go for it.
Yeah, but I was hoping for more infrastructure
I was too.
Projects. And what I think the stimulus does too much of, it lets you guys off the hook a bit, because it's going to feed you, instead of you taking the cuts you should be taking now, you got a couple of years of sort of softening things, that you keep employment at a certain level and do all that, and we don't get the structural changes that we need in some of the benefit plans, some of the other things that go on in state government.
Jack, I would say you may be right, but I think the hole's pretty severe. I have a budget this year that's $29.8 billion. The first budget I submitted 4 years ago was $30.8.
Yeah, I know.
And so we've made a lot of tough choices inside that budget. And we have reduced employment about 7,000 on a base of about 80,000. It's not like we're not making adjustments. I think if you had seen no help from Washington for the states, we would have been cutting schools. And I think it's a huge, huge mistake. And, you know, we've already got a problem in the healthcare system. Without Medicaid, all we would have had was our hospitals doling out more charity care, more hospitals under extraordinary pressure. The system would have, I think, come apart.
Yeah, but I think I think New Jersey, in your plan, at least from what I've read, has done more than, say, your brothers here in New York, where the Assembly goes up there and raises 8% spending and then jacks up a new tax in the middle of this recession. I mean, and I'm afraid that's happening in more places than not because of the stimulus. And New Jersey, I think you get an A for what you're trying to do. So it's different.
I appreciate it, but I do want people that are listening to this. You have some core things that you have to do in society. You know, we've got a gang problem across the state, across this country.
Right.
I can't take cops off the street
I agree.
in any great degree. If we do, I think we're turning our back on our society. We cannot not educate our children. I'm going, you know, you pick up the New Jersey papers today, I'm getting slammed because I pulled some money back, about 5% from Rutgers, and you know they're concerned because they're going to have some layoffs, which, by the way, they needed to get with the same program we did, with downsizing a bit in some of the administrative areas and other less than top of the heap priorities. But we need, there's a degree where you go too far in those stuff.
Everybody likes the idea of infrastructure. It seems like you're doing things that need to be done. You got to hire people to do it. Is there enough left over from just keeping people employed for all these essential services to actually embark on any infrastructure projects?
Well, there are absolutely. Most of your budgets or the sources of financing for infrastructure come from different places than operating budgets. Actually, states do a better job of separating capital budgets from operating budgets. Down in Washington, they just mush it all together. You can't tell whether a satellite is what you're spending the money on or it's, you know, salaries. But
there is money. Well, once again, I was
we have the resources, came at some pain with increases in tolls that will allow us to widen the turnpike, to fund that new tunnel, that 100-year tunnel that we're going to put under the Hudson River that will open up mass transit in northern New Jersey along the East Coast line. You know, there's a societal benefit fee that is helping us finance that project that I talked about at Merck. That is building solar panels. We're going to build wind farms off the coast. And, you know, we're going to talk about other energy projects. You've got to have investments in long-term infrastructure in society.
What's the toughest part of this job you got? What's the toughest part of this job? You get up every morning, you go in there, you got a legislature, you got unions, you got...
The media.
Media.
Media. It's a lot of fun, Carl. We have plenty of fun with them. I think actually seeing people who are really struggling to make ends meet. I don't think it's about all of the issues that impact a governor personally. It's the fact that you're trying to help people, and you're trying to do that while they're under a lot of stress. And you can see it. I mean, our unemployment rate's not, you know, not insignificant. People are losing homes, and knowing you can't actually do everything you'd like to be able to do to help them.
Have there been decisions that you've changed your mind after you've met
Oh, of
people who are
course.
struggling with something that you gave back and said, okay, we
Not
can
any
cut this?
different than when you're running a company. You know, you take the best information you can get at a time. You put a probability factor around what you think is the right decision, and then you get new information and you better change. If you don't actually shift after you get new information, then you're making a big mistake. We had this tax deductibility issue, and you know, I felt like it was a progressive way to deal with how we should raise some revenues, and so we suggested that. We heard a lot of pushback from society, and they would have rather had other things. I'm not going to throw away everything we're trying to do on one judgment, and so you're going to make changes. If you don't, then I think you're just beating your head against the wall. And you certainly do that at Goldman.
Right.
I was going to say, we were out of time, but one Goldman question.
Right.
Where's the balance between their ability to pay back TARP and being accountable for the help they've gotten from the government overall?
Well, I think the sooner we get our strong institutions out of the TARP, out of government support and standing on our own, I think the better society is. And furthermore, it frees up the money, could be used for something else, more loan modifications, lots of other things that could go on. So, you know, I think those institutions that can stand on their own, we ought to get them back, make them pay whatever it takes and move on.
Great. Like that.
Yeah, take the capitalists out of the capitalist system, but not the capitalists out of the capitalists.
No, I don't know. I get the government as soon as the system will allow for people to be able. And by the way, I'm not sure that all the institutions, I don't want to speak about Goldman or any other one. I'm not sure all the institutions that were involved with this had to do what was taken on. So they were doing part of it because they were asked, because that was the judgment.
Becky asked you about making tough decisions. I've got a book here for you, Governor.
Thank you.
Signed by my wife for you, to be sure that that helps you make those tough decisions.
You're a good man. Take care.
Governor, thanks for coming in. Good to
My
see
pleasure.
you, as always. Governor John Corzine.
This is my copy?
No signature?
No.
You got any comments or questions
I'm holding on to mine.
this morning? Send us a note. Squawk@cnbc.com is our address. So be right back.
See you guys.
Governor, thank you very much.
Thanks, Governor.